Hi, everyone. Welcome to this Get Together session brought to you by getAbstract. My name is Kirsten Muller-Daberman, and I'm going to be your host for this session. We're so glad that you're joining us because we have a very special session today with co-founder and CEO of getAbstract, Thomas Bergen. He is joining our virtual book club to talk about a case study of getAbstract, looking back at what the company has learned throughout this crisis, how they're moving forward, and share with us what lessons that he's learned about leadership through this process and give us a vision for the future. So without further ado, Thomas, the man with the hat, welcome to the show.
Hello, Kirsten. Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. Oh, I hear that you have more hats than you have t-shirts. This is pretty cool. You're always wearing a fabulous hat.
That could now mean that I really have few t-shirts or really many hats. I think the latter is right. I just love hats.
Well, they look great on you. So it's wonderful to have you back here. You have hosted several different get-togethers, conversations with authors, and it's been a really neat thing that getAbstract has pioneered since the beginning of the pandemic and the lockdowns to offer this great video content. But today we want to hear from you. And I'm sure that getAbstract has been such a wonderful service to so many people before the crisis. But then also, at the very beginning of the lockdown, you made the decision to make the entire getAbstract library free until May 18th, so people still have a few days to register, to offer these resources to the public. And I'd love to know what motivated you to make that generous offer, because you said it was a personal decision, not necessarily a business decision.
Yeah, probably a little bit, starting a little bit earlier than the lockdown. You remember we had the kickoff in Bad Neuschwanstein in Germany, where we invited all members of getAbstract family to that wonderful place, and that was end of January. And end of January, I already got those informations from some of our employees from China. That Corona is really hitting hard, and it's not fun, and it's a deep problem. And we have editorial teams in China who are summarizing Chinese content for the European and the American market in English. So already then we took the decision to postpone all flights after the kickoff. So nobody was flying any longer. So we had really a head start into this. And then when it really, I think a week before Switzerland declared the shutdown, I really felt some decisions are taken really wrongly and based on bad content. And we have good content in our database. That's why we took decisions very early, and it seemed to be the right ones. I said to myself, we can't sit on that content and not let others take advantage of it as well. It's now relevant that everybody is capable to take smart decisions based on the best, at least from our point of view. Obviously, others will look at it differently, but we do our best. We give our best. We are all in, and we really try to find the best content, rate it and summarize it, and help people to take smart decisions. And that's what we believe we can give back to people and society. We were treated wonderfully the last 20 years. We had a huge ride, a really good time. So why shouldn't we be now there and not help a little bit where we can? And that was the idea behind it.
Yeah. What else did getAbstract do at the very beginning to get ahead of this and start to shift the workplace to adapt to the new normal that we've all been experiencing for the last 8 weeks or so?
Yeah, we've shut down the offices before the shutdowns. So we declared 2 meter distance from desk to desk, for example, long before anything was discussed. Similarly, from the Swiss government, and the Swiss government was ahead of most governments in Europe, not of all, but of most. and obviously as well ahead of the American government. And that was something that we've done very early on. And we just declared a week ago that we keep the offices shut down until the end of the year for sure. And nobody has to go there. And we believe that's the right move. We are very productive. I don't see a reason why we should force people to go into an office or commute if we can do it differently. Another thing that we have done very early on is to really incentivize people to install themselves well at home, that they have all the tools needed, that they can bring, if necessary, even the desk from the office and the chairs and screens. And now everybody even has a budget to get, if something is needed to work professionally from home, everybody gets a budget and can spend that himself on tools so he can really work professionally, because we have so many people in client contact and in daily video conference calls, and that has really to be the infrastructure has to be the right one. And last but not least, one thing that I immediately remembered is normally I meet people in the office, at least in Lucerne. And that's why I was traveling as well every other month to Miami to meet the American office people there. And I couldn't have that contact any longer. So I started producing a daily video in the morning. And funny enough, I learned that this helped tremendously, because we had many of our employees were working from home. They never had a close contact to me before, and now they feel much closer coupled, much better integrated, not only because of that video, but because of many initiatives than before. So Corona even has helped us to be better.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And I love the way that you frame that you take a crisis and you say, okay, how can we adapt and shift to make the organization better and work better for employees? And it's actually something that I would love to get your insight on, because as so many employees transition to more remote working, and companies like Google and Twitter have already come out with big announcements of even more flexibility for allowing their employees to work from home as well, there also has to be these boundaries, right? Because you can't just outsource the workplace to the person's home office. You have to do these things like what you mentioned, equipping them, offering them a budget for the right kind of desk and video equipment. How else can you as a leader or other leaders like really get the team members aligned with the vision and support their work from home and help them create those boundaries necessary to keep that distance between their home life and their work life?
Yeah, that one big problem I've seen at myself, and I observed others as well, the same behavior. We were working many more hours suddenly.
Right.
we didn't stop working because you didn't have the natural boundary of going to the office and then coming home and then at least not looking at the iPhone for an hour or two, something like that. It didn't stop. So one thing was, when I was aware that I'm running in danger to burn out sooner or later, because that's nobody is immune against something like that if you're working too much, was I needed to start playing an instrument again. On a regular basis. I'm playing the guitar and singing. And the second thing is doing sports, really doing sports. And when I felt doing sports, I've mentioned that in a video that I would love to incentivize everybody to do sports again, because I have a problem, and we should meet in a virtual group and chat around what we have done. And I would even incentivize whoever participates in that group can buy himself an iWatch or a Garmin to do so they can share their efforts. And this was a huge bummer. I don't know how many people joined. I think hundreds of iWatches were now bought within the last 6 weeks or 8 weeks. And everybody's participating on Strava and joining the team and giving kudos. And so many have told me, Thomas, I couldn't motivate myself to go outside. And now suddenly I'm walking at least half an hour in the evening. Well done. So I'm very happy this initiative really seems to be a success.
Yeah. How do you see workplaces themselves changing? I know you mentioned that the offices are going to be remained closed and a lot more flexibility with remote working. But, just more broadly, how do you see the workplace itself changing from a design perspective, from a percentage employment perspective? What does the office look like a year from now?
I don't yet know, but what I know, I didn't like offices at all. I think offices were boring places. I didn't like to go there. I liked to meet the people, but I didn't like to work there. I liked the energy we had there in the cafeteria. I liked the possibility to chat with somebody while walking through the hallway. But I didn't like my desk and the chair, and I'm alone in this back office. I didn't like so I initiated an initiative to think about how we would like to use the offices in the future. And I think the office should be a place where you do not have to go, but where you would like to go. So I asked, for example, that we have a much bigger kitchen with the possibility to cook, and with much more tables, so everybody can have his lunch there. And I would offer once a week a nice Italian cook who's on a Wednesday cooking for everybody who's there. So people come automatically to the office and are not forced, but they are coming. And I heard now from many young fathers and mothers that they are happy to go back to the office, not every day, but that it's very crowded at home in their apartments with the children. And it was a very crowded situation. And they are very happy to go back to the office, and welcome, they shall. And I heard from some leaders that they want to have their teams at least 1 day or 2 days a week together in the office. They shall do that. But I think the decisions should be taken not by the CEO, but by the team leaders and the employees. And we should have much more open spaces to meet. We should have a nice kitchen. We should have quiet areas where you can really work concentrated. And many more meeting rooms. We do not have enough meeting rooms.
Yeah, it seems like flexibility, adaptability, and change are going to be the modus operandi for the future. That's for sure. Thanks for sharing what you've already done. Yeah. Thomas, I would love, we have talked so much about leadership on these get-togethers. We've had some incredible authors and experts come on and speak about different qualities that make a good leader, especially during this crisis. But you have lived it. And so you always are very open, and you're always so open and honest in sharing. And I'd like to plug into that authenticity right now. What were some of your fears at the beginning of this, and what were some of your challenges as a leader that you can share with our audience, and of course, how you overcame them?
Obviously, one of my biggest fears is, and still is my mother. She's 87. She lives part-time with us, and I'm really afraid that she's catching corona and dying. And she already decided that she doesn't want to go to a hospital. If it happens, she would love to stay at home and that we treat her personally. We already have done that with my father. I treated him for 6 months at home with morphine. And it was his wish not to die in a hospital. But that's a big fear of mine, that people I love will get corona and really suffer. Another fear of mine is that the fear that we spread now among practically the whole society will will make us egoists, that we are only thinking about ourselves and not any longer about others. Here in Switzerland, we are in a very privileged situation, and we should think about as well others. My first video I've done on Facebook. I practically don't do videos on Facebook, but I felt so sad when our Swiss government announced their first announcement in Corona, and they didn't talk about Italy, and that as soon as we are capable, we will help you. You are friends of ours. You're not enemy. We shut down now the borders, but as soon as we can help, as soon as we see that we have capacity in the hospitals, we'll bring people from Italy to our places. Even if you can't help right now, that you at least send the message that we are in that together and not alone. I'm really afraid that we are creating right now a world where egoists are dominating, and I would be very sad for my children to have helped create such a world.
Yeah. How can leaders of their own organizations, whether they're in the private sector leading a company, or they're in or the private sector, or whether they're in the public sector or working in policy, obviously people from a wide variety of different industries read the abstracts on getAbstract and are a part of this learning community, what leadership lessons should they be learning from this time? How can they overcome maybe that tendency to withdraw into themselves or into their organization, but keep an open mind and an open heart?
To be honest, I don't know. I can only talk about myself. What I try to do. The only thing I try to do is trying to be honest with myself and with others. Times are hard; they are difficult, and many businesses won't exist in 12 or 24 months. That's a reality, and I can't change that. But I can send empathy. I can tell them that I'm sad. I can share a little bit grief with them together, share their emotions, and I can as well be try to be successful with my company to be able to help, because you can only help if you're yourself successful. We have the privilege right now, getAbstract, that the product is really needed in the market, and if you're such a situation, you have to step forward. You have to make things happen. You cannot allow to drop into a depression. You have to show the people that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and we'll get there. And I think that's right now, and that they are not alone. And that this is not only a case to solve within Switzerland or within my family. That's a case for the whole world. We can learn right now that we have to stick together. There are problems we only should solve in our families and in our communities and in our states and in our countries. Yes, there are many of those. And I believe we should solve the problems on the lowest basis possible. And most problems can be solved in the families. And should be solved, and the government shouldn't intervene there. I'm totally against government intervention where it's not needed. But there are some few problems where we need the world community. We need it. The corona is not a problem we will solve alone. Climate change is not a problem we will solve alone. Water is not a problem we will solve alone. It won't work out. Finished. And we have to learn that lesson now. It's the biggest opportunity right now to learn that lesson now and to create together a better world. It really is the opportunity to do so. And if we do that, if we learn that right now, Corona was a big help. And I'm so sad for everybody who lost their businesses or lost a loved one. It hurts me. I have nightmares. Very often right now, because I feel the pain of, for example, I have family in Ecuador. I have
Oh,
even
wow.
an
Yeah, of course.
Ecuadorian passport. And so I see what's going on there. It's just terrible, terrible. But if one good thing can come out there here, it would be that we learn that we have to solve problems much earlier than what we have done now in the Corona crisis. We could have been prepared 5 years ago, 10 years ago. It was common knowledge that such a pandemic could be the next big negative event for mankind. We have summaries of books, of speeches of Bill Gates, I don't know,
Yes.
5, 10 years ago, where he said, look, this is one of the biggest fears I have right now. And prepare, we could have been prepared much better for much lower costs than what we are paying right now by shutting down societies. And the same thing will happen with water. The same thing will happen with climate change. We should start preparing ourselves right now and changing our behavior. And if we learn that out of this, we have done something very, very useful out of that crisis. Never miss a crisis to do the change for good.
Absolutely. So many wise words there. Thank you for sharing, and thank you for inspiring us, because we need hope during this time, because it has been a challenge really in so many ways for so many people and communities around the globe. And it's nice to hear that someone really does have hope. And you're right, we have to cling to that. What can we learn, both as a community, as a family, as a company? And that leads to kind of my last pair of questions for you. What is getAbstract planning for the future? As you mentioned, so many people, even more businesses and people, are seeking out this information because they want those resources so they can be prepared for what comes next. What is the vision for what getAbstract is working on now, and how have you overcome some of these challenges to continue that growth for the rest of the year?
First of all, yes, it's running right now quite nicely, but we always have to know that by the end of the year, we have to renew many corporate customers. And if 30% of them are bankrupt, we will hit as well terribly. That's the way it is. That's life. But at the moment, we are in a good position. Secondly, what we are doing, we will expand. We will look at more knowledge, try to find more relevant knowledge, produce that knowledge, put it into the right context, so people can, in different fields, try to take the right decisions. And forming the context around it with the help of sketch notes, with our new journal, with the get-togethers, we have meeting in the boxes, we have book clubs. So we will do that and add even more services to add context around the knowledge we already have. We will try to help authors to get to new customers they didn't have, so they can sell their books, because we need you authors. We need you. You are writing relevant knowledge. We can't do it without you. You have invested a lot of thinking, a lot of thought processes to write a book or a good text, or to produce a good video. So we will want to help you to even be able to really live good on your production. And that's one direction. And last but not least, we have more and more companies asking us to summarize their internal knowledge. And we started right now ramping up a division where it's only summaries on demand. And so we are summarizing their internal knowledge as a service. And there's a big demand for that service right now.
Really cool. Thank you. And last question for you, Thomas. What is the biggest way that you have changed as a person throughout this crisis? The change that has come with maybe the most surprise and the one you're most thankful for?
The biggest change, you know, I don't know if it's the biggest one, but it's one that it has tremendous impact on my life, and the positive impact. I'm not traveling any longer. And I don't feel the need to travel in the future. I don't feel the need to get into an airplane. I was probably 50 to 100 times boarding an airplane on a yearly basis the last 21 years. I don't feel any need any longer to do so. I have had board meetings from boards in not even in Switzerland, where I asked them, could I join online? Do I really have to travel there by train or something like? And they said, no, you need to be there. And now suddenly we are allowed to say, no, I'm not there. And that's the change. I really feel I won't do compromises any longer, that many. I probably will lead my life more radically than I have done it before. I always was afraid of somehow being looked at too extreme, and un poco loco in Spanish, a little crazy one. I do not care any longer about that. Even if people think that, that's fair enough. That's their look at it. I look at it differently. I will continue the life and be. I have self-esteem now enough to pull it through, and not to wait any longer until others give green light. No, I won't.
That is very brave. Thomas, thank you so much. A wonderful way to close, and I'm sure your words were very inspiring for leaders all over the world that are listening to this, to your employees, I know as well. And thank you so much for sharing with us, giving us an update on getAbstract, and we're very, very excited to see where everything goes in the future.
Thank you, Kirsten, for having me. It was a pleasure, like always. And have a wonderful afternoon. Bye.
All right. Bye. Thank you.